If you're in this country on any type of non-immigrant visa, or you're gonna come into this country on any type of non-immigrant visa, I need you to watch this video to the very end. Spend the next 5 or 6 minutes of your life to listen to what I have to say in this video. And why is it important? Because the type of visa that you come in to America with determines how good your experience in this country is gonna be. And not just that, it determines what's gonna happen to you for the next couple of years and how you transition from being the fresh off the boat immigrant or non-immigrant to somebody that can call America their home. So listen and listen good. These are things that I wish somebody would tell me from my day one in this country, or even what things that I wish I knew before I moved to America. But lucky enough for me, I was able to get in on a visa that allowed me to not learn these lessons the hard way. So I don't want you to be a victim of that. I'm going to spell it out to you from A to Z. So where do we start from? You see, America has two categories of visa. There are immigrant visa and non-immigrant visa. But regardless of the type of visa that you come in with, either immigrant or non-immigrant, your experience is going to be very similar. Because the easiest way to describe that is when you get into this country, you're like a newly born child. You might have the brain of an adult, but you're in a new world that is different from what you're used to. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But if you come in on a non-immigrant visa, say F1 visa, L1 visa, or O1 visa, all those H1B, whatever type of visa, there's a difference because to some extent, the visa allows you to kind of integrate yourself and maybe work a little bit. Might not be the best of jobs, but it allows you to work a little bit and integrate yourself into the system. It gives you some certain amount of soft landing, if you call it that. Now, if you come in with some other type of non-immigrant visa, say like B1, B2 visa, which is basically visitors visa or tourism visa, and for one reason or the other, you decide to stay, it's a bit different and it's a bit difficult. So I'm going to go into details of that, but I want you to have that at the back of your mind that the type of visa that brings you into the country really, really determines a lot as far as like your transition and your progress is concerned. So that's one thing on one side. If you're lucky enough, say you won the visa lottery or somebody sponsored you, like whatever, K1 visa or green card or whatever, and it's an immigrant visa that allows you to stay without any stress, that allows you to even get a job when you get here, your experience is still going to be similar. In fact, the content of this video applies to both people that are coming in on non-immigrant visa and people that are coming on immigrant visa. It's just knowing the limitation and the opportunity that your visa affords you is going to be very, very important moving forward. So now that we cleared that out of the way, your visa is important. If you're coming in, my advice is this. It's either you come in through F1 visa, which is student visa. The reason being that the school is a very, very controlled environment. Controlled environment in the sense that you're going to meet people your age, professionals and like students or whatever, and it allows you to integrate, to understand how the system works. But if you come in on a visitor visa, you're just thrown into the wild. Like you barely even know what's happening. Again, don't forget that when you get here, you're like a newly born child with an adult brain. Like the system is new to you. So if your plan is to say like check America out and see what America has to offer for you, it's best probably to come in on a student visa, and that allows you to see what the system is like. Can you fit in? Does it suit your long-term goal? And then you can find a way to transition from F1 visa to something more permanent, right? So my general advice, and that's why like if you check around the channel, you're gonna see most of my videos, they are mainly about like F1 visa, F1 visa, F1 visa, because it's probably the easiest way to transition. But that does not mean if you come in on other type of visa, it's impossible. It's just you have to keep the limitation of your visa in mind. That's one. Now, if you're gonna come in on an F1 visa, you have to realize the fact that age is very, very important. So say you're coming on an F1 visa, the younger you are, the better, because that allows you to meet people of your age. That allows you to change career if you want to. That allows you to explore things and fail and then go to some other things and fail until you find something that you're much more comfortable with. And the idea of F1, being an F1 student is such a nice idea in the sense that as long as you're still a student, you're good. You would always be in status. And the last thing you want to experience is be out of status. And there's one thing I really want to add about that visa. If you're from Africa, seeking asylum in America is a very terrible idea. I'm not gonna say more than that. Don't bank on that to stay in America. I would not advise my enemy to do that. Okay. So age is a very, very important factor. And I've seen it go both ways, right? I've seen people coming on F1 visa for undergrad. They're probably too young. They don't know like their left from right. They don't understand the reality of the situation that they've been put in. And it becomes an issue because then they graduate. They don't know how to transition from being a student to being a working class. They don't know how to like navigate the entire process. It's kind of complicated, right? If you're too young, that's a problem. If you're old as well, rather, if you're old, it's not a bad thing to be old as long as you understand that you're not young. So that's another thing that people don't pay attention to. Like, don't come here at the age of 40 thinking you're 25 because you're not, right? So if you're old, you also have to factor that into the equation, which means you have a benefit. Benefit is in the fact that you are more experienced in life. Even though you're not very experienced in America, you're more experienced in life generally. So you want to use that to your advantage. But the first step to using that to your advantage is realizing the fact that you're not young, right? So you have to take calculated risk in that regard. And another thing that I really want to point out is regardless of what visa you come in on, either F1 visa or H1B visa, if your long-term goal is to stay here permanently, one thing that you really want to keep in mind is the type of job that you go for when you're making that transition. So I know the crazy thing out there right now is like be a data analyst or be like a cyber security person or whatever. Bro, if you're coming here from a third world country, forget that one for now, all those data analytics and cyber security, because you're going to be competing with Americans that have been here their whole life. They speak the language of the industry. They grew up here. Some of them have security clearance that will allow them to get a job that you never be able to get your hands on unless you become a citizen. And becoming a citizen is like 5, 6 years conversation. So cyber security, all Americans are trying to go after cyber security. Forget that one. You see, what will not fail you is healthcare. Like if you're wise to get your foot in the door or to immediately get things running, you really want to look towards healthcare and find something that would, number one, it doesn't have to be what you do for the rest of your life, but you want to find something that will give you initial stability as far as income is concerned. And healthcare is one of those like kind of easy niche to get into because you don't, at least unless you're trying to become a surgeon or whatever, you don't need a long period of training. You can literally become like an LPN or RN in like 2 years, 2.5 years. So those are the things that you really want to go after. Because if you're trying to be like a cybersecurity, I mean, it's cool to say you're like a data analyst or whatever. You're competing against Americans, you're competing against Indians, you're competing against Asians. And it goes without saying that your odds are very, very low in that regard. So number one, understand the limitation of the visa that you're coming in. Plan accordingly based on the limitation of that visa, right? If it's F1, come here, do your school, find a way to transition from F1 to something that will allow you to work and eventually become green card or whatever. If you're coming in on like B1, B2, you also really want to explore their ways around it. I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but you really want to explore the opportunity that once you are able to go to school or get a job, you want to fit into like the healthcare system where you're able to take up like a short course or a really quick course that allows you to start working in healthcare. And then once you have that job for like a year or 2 years, you can easily like you save enough money, you can transition to something that you want. And by that time, you have a more stable status to pursue that. So there are level to this thing in America, and the first step to that level is the type of visa that you come in with, and then the type of job that you get, and that's why I emphasize like getting into healthcare type of job. You don't have to be passionate about these things. Most people are not passionate about what they do. Passion don't pay bills for most of us, right? It's just a way to make sure that we're not homeless, right? So and this is important because I've seen so many videos, bro. I've seen so many videos of immigrants in Canada going through it right now. You see people say, "Oh, I came here for school and then I couldn't pay my tuition, and then I went out of status, and then I'm homeless." Blah 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 blah. You really want to avoid that kind of story. And the reason why people end up in that situation in most cases is because they forgot the type of visa that they are on. They got too relaxed, right? So if you're coming in from F1, there's like that's probably like the chill, like the most chill type of visa that you can get because as long as you register and you're a student, you can stay in this country for as long as you want. Although there's a whole caveat that, but it's probably the safest type of visa. B1, B2, your time is running. You really don't want to spend more than like the duration on your visa before you become out of status or illegal or whatever. But I mean, if you plan your way very well, there are also ways to deal with all of that. The point being that understand the limitation of your visa that you have. Understand your age when you come in. If you're 40, don't act as if you're 25. Understand what you want to do. Don't start applying for data scientists unless you got a degree in like, or you came here for a degree, for a master's degree program, and then for to stay here you need to get a job in your field. But if that's not the situation, you don't need to start running after all these flashy things. You need to go for something that is much more stable. Example is healthcare industry. Okay, so those are some things that you really want to keep in mind when you're coming off the boat, or if you're fresh and you haven't even found your stability yet. Those are the things that you really want to keep in mind. And that's why I said there are levels to this experience in America, and your level begins from the type of visa that you come in with. And this information is important because if you're here, you really want to think based on that type of visa. If you're planning to come here, you really want to think about the right type of visa to come in here with, right? Because if you don't plan those things ahead and you went and sell your property, you're just going to be one of the statistics that you see on the news. People that are like, oh, I used to be a XYZ in my country and now I'm here, I don't have anything. You don't want to be that. You want to be the person that understands what's ahead of them, right? And I'm going to make some other videos about like the short-term goals and long-term goals and how to navigate that kind of process, and how you can essentially go from being the fresh off the boat guy to the guy that knows what he's doing to some extent and taking advantage of the American system to pursue the American dream. So that's all I have for you in this video. If you like the content of the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I like to make videos about my experience as I go from being a student and all those things to staying in America. I've been here for a while now, so it's a wealth of experience to be shared. Don't forget to like the video and share. So see you in the next video. Peace out.